And what's the weather like? I can't see the weather, but it looks quite blue behind the curtains.
It's still early, so the sun should come up hopefully today, not tomorrow. But the mood is still up, so it can be sunny in our minds or happy of the rain. Sure. And how is it in England? Is it the usual gloomy weather?
Correct. Yeah, no, it's pretty miserable. It's pretty miserable. I just been to Dubai. I came back Monday, 2 days ago. So I had lovely sort of sun and warmth and everything else. And it was like a contrast therapy session I went to from the eyes to from the heat to the eyes, which actually, quite frankly, I do every day. I take contrast therapy every day. And I know the feeling.
I do cold therapy about 4 or 5 times a week.
Okay.
Some people like to do it every day, but I find a lot of benefit, and it could be shower or outside or pool or bath.
So do you take an ice bath?
Done ice bath or cold pool or river.
Yeah,
so
good stuff.
Shower's the easiest, but all of them are good, yeah.
Well, exactly. I suppose your shower is just available, isn't it? Although if you're in Dubai, it doesn't matter if you're in the shower. It doesn't get as cold that it has the effect of the exposure. But nevertheless, a cold shower is always a good start. So did you get a cold shower this morning?
Not this morning yet.
Not this morning.
But perhaps after. Okay. And I was with my friend in Osaka in Japan. We went to an onsen, and they have also, old Japanese bath culture where they have hot and cold exposure. So you go from hot bath to cold. And we did it a few times. The last time we were able to do 10 minutes in the cold. So
yeah, good stuff. Well, I mean, that's what I do basically. I go from 90 degrees in a sauna, finish sauna, to a 0 degrees in the ice bath. That's what I do daily, 5 times a day basically. So I'm psyched.
And you see the benefits?
The mental resilience is going through the roof, Christian. It still has benefits because I've been doing it for a year and a half. So I've been doing it for quite a while on a daily basis. You would say, it kind of wears up over time, but it doesn't. I think it's normalized. It's a constant calibration of the system, right?
Well, this is resilience, and we look at, for instance, the vagus nerve and how that affects the heart rate variability and physical and mental resilience, and also in the pleasure center, we know, for instance, that the cold exposure therapy gives you more dopamine than most available drugs, and sex even. So, yeah. Yeah,
no, so that's why I'm, basically I am, my relationship is with my ice bath. Anyway.
Once you go through the mental difficulty of doing it and psyching yourself up to do it, and the first few seconds or minutes, then you realize the effect, and just the calm afterwards, and
Correct.
The dopamine lasts longer, and great.
Yeah. No, exactly that, man. It's that state. The cortisol seems to drop as well, and No, I think so. It, and I think it's one of them things. I think that also in a way sparked off me doing all these podcasts, right? Because the nervous system is a core part. Is the reset of the nervous system, the parasympathetic, but at the same time the vagus. For me, it started with the kind of the woods and the kind of the psilocybin retreat where I kind of got rid of patterns initially, and then moved on to, the neuro, from neuro to kind of the nervous system. So that's
there's a dorsal and ventral vagus, and we're actually doing at AWE. Started a few weeks ago. We're doing digital nervous system reset a couple times a week. So I'm one of the presenter. Mark, our co-founder, is the other one.
Okay,
and we're helping people through talking and visualization and meditation-like state. Some is more happy reset, some is more calm. We're going to put some more content eventually to really focus on the nervous system and reset it in a way that's helpful for the day or the week.
Yeah,
you really get that.
And do you use a tool for that as well? Do you use a tool for that? Because I'm picking up a tool, which is the Pulsetto, which is a vagus nerve stimulator. The VNS, which I'm testing, by the way, from Lithuania. And that is exactly that. It's the electrical impulse on the vagus nerve. And it seems to be very effective. Very, very effective.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's kind of difficult for me to discriminate against what I've already do and, of course, what I do on top of it. So I'm not a good case study, probably.
Well, I'd still love to hear, how is it effective? We love technology. As you probably saw, our company is trying to get people not off technology, but more have a tech-life balance. But there is a lot of great technology. We're working EEG studies, seeing how EEG can be better than fMRI even in some circumstances, and how it could be useful specifically for meditation state or motivation, focus, awareness, and looking at the difference of the default mode network versus attention network and cognitive prefrontal networks, right?
Okay.
Central executive.
Okay, so
go on. And we're looking how that affects that could be affected. For instance, we just drafted a study to see how that can be affected by screen use versus social interaction, positive, neutral, or negative social interaction versus nature exposure, real nature exposure, or screen, like seeing a video of nature versus being in nature. So different experimental condition and seeing what's the best. We have some hypotheses, and there are some other studies that correlate, for instance, that nature increase attention, social interaction increase attention, and screen time decrease attention. But we want to see it in the EEG setting.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. Okay, so Christian, I think before, just to kind of set a bit of a frame in a sense, you have probably just shy of an hour. Same here. I think obviously we're running in that time already. You've got a busy schedule in Hawaii. What's it called again? Not Ohio? Is it Ohio? Osaka. Where are you now?
Well, yeah. No, I was in Osaka last year, but I'm in Ottawa, so it's the capital of Canada, 2 hours away from Montreal.
Okay, that's it. So just a kind of a bit of a format for today, and I've already sent you a quick sort of message on LinkedIn in terms of what would be good to touch upon. Because one of the things I would want to sort of start off with is your story and kind of what sparked off the AWE or however you refer to it, digital wellness. And I want to Then I want to kind of talk more about some of the major shifts that you see in health and wellness, and I think mental health in particular right now. From there, kind of understand what's working for you, and then what's kind of challenging for you, and then finally sort of maybe touch upon kind of what you see for the next 6 to 12 months. Right. So that's a kind of the format, and kind of also for your own understanding, for context purposes, I suppose, these conversations I have are part of a series where I explore with leaders in wellness and, digital health, what kind of challenges they're facing, whether it's also to do with, the AI coming into the play or other challenges they may face within your organization in terms of scaling or anything along those lines. So the Morphosis is really kind of to bring all those stories of transformation together. People, wellness, technology. That's basically what it is. So let me kick off. Okay, Christian, let's start with your story. You've worked across psychology, healthcare, digital health for, I believe, 25 years, and you've traveled, from what I can see from your profile, more than 150 countries. Now, from your perspective, what was the spark that led you to create AWE Digital Wellness?
Great. So, as you mentioned, I was already in digital health, way before the pandemic and telehealth became popular, using tools to maximize healthcare delivery, outcome, efficiencies has always been something that was already brewing. And I've been helping startups across the world and medium-sized and larger-sized company do such things. And I met my co-founder, Mark, a bit more than a year in Gibraltar, so in Europe. He's American, but living in Germany. And we had met at a conference where he told me, we were introduced by Dr. Clara Dawkins. I'm trying to figure out how to help people with digital addiction. He's a therapist, and for a few years he was helping, and he still is helping people with more severe types of digital addiction.
What was particularly sparked off that sort of wanting to help people with digital addiction? Was there a particular kind of reason for that at the time?
Yeah. So the time is he's seeing people, depressed, unmotivated, sometimes suicidal, people actually buying a rope and saying things that they're not feeling good in life. young men, but also women that he was seeing frequently and more of. And he's also a neuroscientist, so he was presenting research at the conference about how to look at internet addiction or gaming addiction on the internet versus cocaine and alcohol, and seeing how the brain is not exactly the same but has some correlates. And when we looked at the numbers and started digging into the subject, the amount of people that are affected by screens is over 80%, right? So some will be classified or as addictive behavior or problematic use. There's even some debate in the field. What's addiction? What's behavioral addiction? And should we classify or diagnose people or not? But we know that even people with non-problematic use, so normal use of screens, or still increased anxiety and depression symptoms, increased ADHD. So this is, what sparked this is affecting everyone in the world. And there's not many people doing something concrete, sustainable about this, right? So we looked at the marketplace. I spoke to someone yesterday who's using one of our competitors' app, and he's saying, yes, I've been using it. It's helpful, but it's not sustainable, right? So what we see out there is app blockers. So, you can block your app. You can look at your screen time. You have some leeways to give timers, to blacken your screen, to make it less attractive, but it's still addictive. And the way we want to look at addiction, not as a stigma, but more as an addictive behavior or compulsion, is really to look at how can we give you something as an alternative? So positive reinforcement. I will be interviewing with Mark, Dr. Mateka, a psychiatrist in the US next week. And we had a pre-podcast discussion about how is that working in the field with youth and psychiatry. And a lot of it is still negative reinforcement, right? So when you're dealing with problematic youth, it might be drugs, it might be screens, it might be behaviors that give you in juvenile detention. But we're thinking of the world as more able to go with positive reinforcement, which is bringing back awe. So that's where the name of the company came from, is awe moments. Dr. Dacker in the US did a lot of awe research, talked about the 8 types of awe, looked at all over the world, right? What awe is. You know about this, right? Yeah. And in my second book on happiness, I go through that research, and I have a whole chapter on awe that goes beyond those 8, and I try to give 8 more. So there's 16 ways that you can find awe in your life, in your daily life, including nature, including social interaction, including connection in different ways, including touch and sex, right? So the hormones enhance awe enhances the hormones, enhance the immune system, right? So when you have an awe moment, your body feels better, it's safer, it's more resilient. And your mind is also more curious, more creative, all those things. So we want to give that to the world to solve one of the biggest problems, which is people are seeking this connection. They're seeking this awe, this social connection by the internet, and they're surprised that they're not really finding it, right? Okay. So, and again, that's the mission that we set up to do, is to use technology, but also human-centric approach. So we're in contact with a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists around the world. We will have access to some of them on the platform so that you can really talk to a real human, and also have tech to help you prevent more than solve issues of wellness and mental health.
Okay, so you basically said you're mentioning a platform, so let's say the users can actually go onto the platform and speak to either a psychologist or use the tools that are available on the platform. Is that how you can you maybe elaborate on that a little more?
That's correct. So since the summer, the platform is set up. So the initial MVP was in May. We have some revenue, we have some clients, and people can access therapists and workshop directly today online. And we launched a few weeks ago our free digital reset service, which is 25-minute nervous system reset, as we talked about. So that's new. And we have more features coming in every month. So we have a tech team. We're about 23 people now, and 3 on the scientific advisory board. So we're building a lot of features. We have a technological roadmap that will include some OS, so actually some new physical phone that are better than whatever phone that you're having now. We're going to include some apps, and we're going to
Did you say phone?
include some AI. Yes. So a physical phone that's targeted for children. So 8, but also we'll have version up to 25 or 30 years old that will help you be much better than any app blocker or tracker by giving you positive reinforcement and fun things to do instead of scrolling on TikTok or listening to a podcast that you are not getting information from.
So if I get it right, so awe, let's just call it awe instead of AWAE, because I looked at it. It could also be awareness, wellness, and enjoyment, right? I mean, but let's just keep it awe, because I'm in awe. I'm in awe right now about the story that you mentioned, and I'm trying to understand, go underneath it all, underneath the skin in a sense. So the platform was launched. MVP was back in May. Since a couple of weeks, it's kind of live. You do the 25 sort of reset, the nervous system reset. That's kind of probably a core part of what you do, right? And then moving forward, or maybe already now, you have some psychologists to go deeper, that have that personal one-to-one connection at the same time. Now, so if I look at your sort of profile, it shows you're a coach, consultant. You mentioned you're helping organizations, startups in that sort of process of going live. So how does that fit in? And I mean, clearly what you talked about in your platform, that's a direct to consumer or a consumer sort of platform, right? Is that where you are focusing most of your attention on right now?
Right now it's consumer, but we have a sales team that are already talking to governments. So we're talking to school districts. We're talking to the government of British Columbia, Ministry of Health, to try to change the world in a sustainable way. And education is one of them, right? So how can we start early and get the next generation a better chance to be proactive about tech balance, have the tools and resources to understand how addictive those things are. So it's like, in the 80s, we had the war on drugs. Now we know that drugs can be great. It's psychedelics and MDMA and therapeutic when used in the right way and legalized and for the right purpose. But they're also potentially dangerous, right? So we know that drugs are potentially dangerous. But now we have parents that are giving tablets at 5, 6 years old to their kids. So they're basically giving them potentially crack, and it's okay. They think it's safe, right? So it's really to look at the parents, the system, and you talked about individual care. So we do one-on-one session, but we also focus a lot on couples and families and parents and organizations, right? So it's not just one person that's addicted or has a problem. It's the whole context, right? So we really want to see a holistic approach. We're also working about communication. We talk and work with Dr. Bonnie Lee in Alberta, Canada, that has a great model about how to communicate better and different communication posture, but also how to see potentially addiction as systemic and the way you see yourself, the way other people see you, your relationships, and your relationship to the world at large. Could it be, a universal perspective, philosophical or spiritual, and all this affect your addictive compulsive behavior, right? So that's what we want to bring in the picture, is helping families, peoples, schools, society at large with all those tools, human or technological.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, I think if I reflect that back on myself in terms of what you are, what your mission is, because it's a big mission, and it's something that we all kind of know it's a problem. We don't know how to deal with it. It's clearly something that's consuming us, and it's, I suppose, polluting us in many ways as well, the consumption. So it's one of them things that's ingrained into your operating system, as you say. The iPhones and the Androids is baked in. The addiction, the algorithm is there to feed you more of what you get. So you're moving on to an operating system that sort of supports your method or your kind of support of those people. Can you maybe lift a little bit more about what's sort of unique about that operating system?
Sure. So first of all, it has control of your phone. It's an OS, operating system, right? So the apps that are out there have limited access, especially with Apple. It's very complicated to get the information that you want, to tweak your tech habits. So having that ability to go at the grassroots of the tool that everyone's having one or two cell phones on them almost at all times, right? But you want to have more control on that. And then, of course, as a parent, that our idea is every parent that's going to get their first cell phone to their kids should be our phone. Right? You should not give the most addictive, problematic phone. If you're going to give them a phone, give them something that's better for them. Right? So how is it different? Well, it's based on science and neuroscience with psychological research. It has patents and also has 4 published papers that people can look at and see. It's actually approved already in Europe as a medical device.
Okay.
We're looking to do the same thing in Canada and the US. But even without the approval. So the approval will help actually clinicians prescribe this, and maybe eventually government could give you a subsidy to have that for your child or for yourself, especially if you have exhibiting some problems or behaviors. But right now we just want to talk to parents and consumers to say, hey, would you like to have a better phone? And what does that phone look like? It actually gives you positive tasks to do and unblocks your phone for all the things that you need to do. If you need it for work, if you need it to or not, it's working all the time. But for the things that are more like, not really necessary, social media, and then, perhaps pornography. If you're an adult, it's your choice. There's some good use of pornography. If you're children, probably not. And depends on the legal requirement and of each country. But you can have all those, really complete parental controls, and then the parents, it's not to spy on your kid, because that's been a problem. We interviewed a young neuroscientist actually studying in the UK that told a story of when he was in his teens, how his parents tried to block his phone, and he always found the password or found the family iPad's password, or find the Wi-Fi at the neighbors, right? So parents are thinking, and I did some door-to-door sales, right? So I'm a leader, I'm an entrepreneur, we have a sales team, but last weekend I did some door-to-door sales and communication and awareness, and talking to people. What I'm hearing, one of the challenges, you were asking me before what type of challenges that we see, is that people have this awareness, but they think that they can deal with it on their own, right? But it's like, can you ask a crack addict how to help himself when he's consuming crack every day and his whole family is? So the awareness is there. People know there's a problem, but they don't know what type of real solutions that there are. So I think that's the challenge, is to get the word out there that we have better solutions than you've ever seen before. And it's not just we as AWE, there are some in the world. So we're trying to put them all together in something that's coherent and that can help you. But it's not only for the monetary value of we're selling you this. It's more like you need to know that this exists. And once you try it, let us know if that's useful. And if it's not, we'll make it even better. Right?
Wonderful. No, that's great. It's a great start, I think, also to set the scene of the conversation. And it is a great mission, I think, to have, Christian, for sure. Now, you've been in this space for a long time, right? You've been one of the front leaders, I think, within let's call it the digital health space. You've seen waves of change, and now in 2025 you've also obviously experienced that the wellness and especially the mental health industry is going through a huge transformation, from personalized wellness to AI driven prevention to workplace well-being and even regenerative therapies. Now, from your perspective, what are the major shifts that you are seeing in health, wellness, or mental health?
So yes, the awareness of mental health is better. I think the stigma is much less. We talked about diagnosis. Should we diagnose or not? And any diagnosis is temporary, right? So if you look at the DSM-5 or ICD-11, they will tell you, have you had this in the past 6 months or similar, depending on the condition. But then you have to do it again, and you might be diagnosed depressed one day, and a few weeks later you're not, or ADHD one day but not. So there's a few things that are known to stay longer in the life cycle, but everything is more flexible than we think when it comes to mental health, right? So people often think that, my kid is this or I'm this. And it's like, well, you are now. And then what can we do to change that into a direction that we prefer, right? And not to stigmatize, just to say, okay, let's look at, I have a friend that's that's taking, I have a few friends taking SSRIs for depression, and that affects their sleep, but it helps their mood. And I was talking to my friend Dr. Seon Park in Seoul, Korea. She's a psychiatrist, and she's doing a lot of prescribing for addiction. And sometimes we need pharmaceutical use because I think the change, and maybe Dr. Huberman is one of the person that put neuroscience as a forefront of the discussion, is that, in 2025, neuroscience is really cool. And we know so much more than we did 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, right? And what we know is that the brain and the nervous system, as we talked, the vagus nerve, is affecting so many things and is being affected by so many things, right? So what we call the condition, now we know it's much more, we know, for instance, that our brain is much more neuroplastic than we taught in the past, that we're learning and changing our brain every day, whatever we do, even if we do nothing. Those pathways are changing, those chemicals are being changed. So I think this neuroscience lens allows us to also come and tap into older traditions of wellness, right? So we're looking at meditation now with MBSS, so mindfulness-based stress reduction and stress therapy. And we have very good studies. We have fMRI and EEGs about what's the brain doing in meditative state, in non-sleep, deep rest states, in the sleep cycle. We talked about cortisol, right? So what's the cortisol in the journey? What's the heart rate variability, right? So we know that there's a somatic component to health that's tied to mental health. And I think that's a big change in terms of saying, can we also look at the body, the brain, the nervous system, the hormonal system, so the endocrine system, and subjective well-being, happiness, states, mood, feelings, emotions.
Yeah, so clearly we're talking the holistic part. You're talking somatic. That's clearly one that is, I suppose, linked to the whole kind of nervous system. You're talking neuroscience. So clearly, it's a full holistic kind of approach. Is that so? That's
100%,
that's
and
really
that
what you see now as a shift in the space.
Yes, and it's starting to include, and to me, it's still not at the peak. I think we can still do much better. I think a lot of psychologists still don't understand neuroscience well enough. I think a lot of neuroscientists don't understand psychology well enough, right? So there's still some bridges to be made. Social science and education also need to understand how things affect, culture. When we talk about mental health, one of the other things that we're trying to do at AWE is have multilingual coaches, have culturally aware people, that understand that mental health is different in different culture. It's even different in the UK than in Canada, and we're speaking the same language, except in Quebec where we speak French. But there is also Latin America mental health and Western Africa or South Korea mental health. And there's different stigmas, there's different tools. And to really think about, mental health globally and then finding local solution for specific, personalized medicine, but culturally aware, linguistically aware. We also work with indigenous culture, right, which has their own spiritual tradition and different languages and trust and addiction issues that might be more related to substance use than to screens. But they're all in the same vacuum of wellness. So when you say holistic, I agree, it's getting more holistic, but I think we can still push the envelope further and make it more and more comprehensive. And again, look at neuroscience and science to help elucidate tradition like hypnosis, right? So we have one of our advisor, a Greek Canadian, who's one of the world expert in clinical hypnosis, right? So it's not hypnosis that's hocus pocus that you see in Las Vegas. It's how to actually use your attention, which we're losing with our screens, and focus your attention and motivation with hypnosis, right? Hypnosis has been used for addiction and for other things. We talked about drugs, so psilocybin, MDMA. We can talk about zoo therapy, right? Pets, cats and dogs therapies, horses, other types of animals. There's so many ways to help the world. Vagus nerves. There's also acupuncture, which is an old Asian tradition, but we know that some acupuncture tools or mat are helping also the vagus nerve reset, right? So there's so many ways that we can help, and the more we know about them and we can include them, then we can have more toolbox to help a specific personalized case.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was thinking about sort of a question while you were talking in terms of the the all contribution, right? I mean, we're looking at a crisis, right? Let's just say there is a crisis. I think there is a mental health crisis. I think the statistics are showing that too, and especially after the COVID, it's clearly spiraled out of control in many ways. Now, how do you think all can contribute to preventative mental health care, and not just as an initial crisis response? Or is it exactly that? Are you a preventative tool?
Yes. So primarily, it's, I wrote an article years ago, personalized preventive medicine, right? So the 3 P's, right? Personalized, preventive, and the last one is been a few years, but I'll come back to me. So
probably I think it's all encompassing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and the idea is that the preventive part is the most important, because it saves money for the government, because a lot of government are using their budgets to mental health. Japan is the number one, but UK and Canada are pretty high. US is not as free healthcare. It's more private healthcare. But so the society, government is the society, right? So we're preventing like dollars and resources that we could be using in education or other things because we're not managing our health, right? And then people and families, right? So we have all types of disease. Mental health is affecting your peers, your family, right? So we know that positive emotions are contagious and negative moods are also contagious, right? So once we help one person, we're helping the society, the family, right?
Yeah, the direct sort of community around that person, right? Mm-hmm.
And so the prevention to me is really what we're focusing on. Although we don't want to cast judgment on people that have gone too far, that need help, right? So we want to be able to treat and to help and to bring back to the normal, or to the awesome, or to the awe states, right? But we want to also focus on, there's a lot of people. So another analogy that I like to give to people is like, well, why should I, there's no stigma, but why should I pay for a therapist, right? Well, you don't have to, but there's no stigma, so that's better. And it can be covered or not. And then also, not every therapist is good for you specifically, right? So a lot of people have told me, I had another couple, so I'm coaching, right? So a couple told me, wow, Chris, thanks for your help. We've been doing 15 sessions together. And the other therapist before was not a good match, was not working, right? And he's probably a great person or therapist, but it wasn't working for them, right? So it's also like when we talked about personalized, like choose the people, the techniques that work for you. Not everything works for everyone, right? It's not, we're going to give you this solution and that's it, right?
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, absolutely. It made me think directly. Sorry for the interjection. I was speaking to a psychotherapist, Manami Yamamoto, from Blue Humming Therapy in San Francisco, and she is Japanese. She moved to the US, and she was talking about the stigma in Japan and in the Asian culture in general, but also about the one size fits all approach, the fixture sort of, well, that's just not really true at all. And that's been probably part of the whole kind of challenge. But that's, so I'd like to take a step, I suppose a little deeper into AWE as you refer this to all. Now, at the moment, what is really working for you within and I suppose it's probably easier if we zoom in on the service or the platform that you provide. What are you proud of? What's really working? So
I'm proud of the fact that we're, first of all, giving awareness, right? So I cannot tell you how many weeks I have like so much positive message of thank you, what you guys are doing, right? So just like as a service to society, before we go into product or service or money or marketing, like just that feeling that, wow, thank you guys for doing this, and also people in our team, like guys, we're doing this together. It's hard. It's a startup. We don't have the funds that we need. We don't have the tools that we need. We're still bootstrapping, yet we're doing it together. And also doing it together is a great thing, right? So doing something that matters, purpose, right, and meaning, and doing something together, social connection, doing something that's tangible. So in terms of what's working, so we've had great success with couples therapy. We're trying to go a bit better in terms of individual, everyone does that, right? So we do it as well. And if you have this personal problem, which, someone lately asked me to, and one-on-one is fine. But also we want to have those bigger discussion, right? So couples, we've been doing well. Families, we created 3 new workshops 2 weeks ago. So more personalized family workshops, shorter, better price to help like families that are busy and don't have, few weeks of commitment. So that's new. We'll see how that goes. We have a free event with families to kind of hear what they have to say, to share a bit of the science, but also to listen, right? We don't want to just be telling. We want to always create those communities. And so Friday we have a in-person live event where people can communicate and see what they're seeing. Parents, educators, healthcare professionals, and have discussions around those themes to make sure that it's adapted.
That's great. I mean, what's kind of missing right now for me is for you to talk it through in a way, right? But so maybe next time when we talk, you can actually bring it up, or we can have a session around the platform where you show around the kind of the modules. I'm visually oriented, and I think a lot of people are. I think it's, and this is kind of an interlude into that. So see it that way, Christian. I didn't know about your platform. I wasn't aware of it as such. From the sort of the initial research that I've done with you, but I think it definitely makes sense to kind of touch upon that sort of, how it's helping people and how it's kind of working and how it sort of functions. But on the flip side, what has been kind of really frustrating for you and slowing you down? And can you maybe sort of elaborate on that one?
Yeah, sure. So what's still difficult is to have this understanding that people are all worried about their mental health, or they think it's important in a way. They're concerned. They can see that the phone or other things in their life, their stress, their job, it's work-life balance. It's tech-life balance. It's many-thing life balance, right? The problem is that like the biggest issue I find is people are not willing to invest, right? So they thank us, they do this, but few people are still willing to convert. We have clients, but few compared to the people that might need it, and especially in a preventive way. We talked about prevention, right? And I will compare this to the gym, right? So you don't need to have a heart attack to go to the gym and be healthy, right? But people pay for gym membership, but few people are still willing to pay for sustainable mental health and wellness. That's the issue that we're facing, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Actually, people start to sit straight up from the point where and pay attention from the point where it's actually already past the point.
Yes,
when the damage has been done. So of course it's gone back to the prevention, and it comes back to the education, as you said quite well, and work with the institutions and organizations to make them aware of something that's available for them and I suppose the community at large. And I think that's clearly why you are looking at the B2B side besides the B2C. I mean, you got some great sort of examples of people that come back to you, whether they're couples or individuals that have benefited from the tools that you provide, which is what you need, is the kind of the emotion, and is kind of the validation from the market, from the people on the street that you have. And now you're moving on to something a bit bigger, the transformation on a organizational level. I mean, I think it's fantastic. And as I said before already, I think it would be good, and then we can make sure that I'm also being seen in the camera, because it's still a mystery where I am. I've never had this before, Christian. It's just bizarre. But look, because they will come.
I hope it will come out fine. But we'd love to jump into another call with you in a few weeks. It's been lovely to connect. And can you give me a bit more of what you're seeing in the field, and if I can comment on what you've been seeing in Europe and in UK and in the world, US in particular? And what are some of the trends that maybe I'm not aware of?
Yeah, no, that's a good question as well. So look, I think I have focused, and especially I've started quite recently with the podcast, so I've done probably 10 or something. So I suppose it all can be clustered within the space of mental wellness. On the peripheral, the tech that I've been looking at is the kind of vagus nerve stimulation, as much as the kind of the BCIs, right? So I've interviewed professors that are kind of credible to talk about the kind of the technologies that are there, and helping people with ADHD. And in ADHD has been a strong kind of let's just say adaptation, or whatever you want to call it, that we talked about in most of my sessions, right? So I've honed in on a particular space in a sense, right? So mental health, and then ADHD being a strong one in that, and then looked at the kind of the technologies again, similar to you are exploring with the neuroscience, the BCIs and the vagus nerve stimulation. And I've seen a lot of kind of positive feedback from that. And now, again, as you said, it's early days, but it's very promising. I think there's a point of realization which I tend to sort of see. Of course, I'm biased and I'm in the market now, so it's difficult to disconnect myself from it. But I can see from different angles that it's moving more into the wellness space. It seems to become much more the awareness of self, the awareness of the inner works that can also help people heal. You know, I can see much more people turning to nature, much more kind of towards the alternative methods in from the conversations that I've had, and from of course the kind of the research that I'm doing right now. And I'm talking about the US. I am talking, I suppose, parts of Europe, like the Netherlands. I'm Dutch, so I can sort of speak what I can sort of reflect on what's happening over there and the conversations that I had. Now, the UK clearly has the same problem, the same kind of epidemic type of problems with mental health too. There is not much of a stigma. I think the stigma has dropped, I think, in Europe. I think since COVID, it really opened up for men to talk about their sort of struggles. So there's definitely been a positive trend from my perspective to sort of open up when it gets tough. So there's much more space. There's much more kind of places that people can go to, to, I suppose, try to find some help. So that's been a real good trend, I think, across Europe, but also in the United States. So that's what I've seen. Technology,
I appreciate
is kind of coming into play for people that may not necessarily want to see an individual or person straight away, but kind of maybe want to do it by themselves. That's definitely what I see.
Yeah, and there is a big market also from self-help in general, right? So we do have free content. We do advocate, people being aware. We just know that people are just losing so much attention that, and knowledge and execution is something different, right? So you might have the idea or knowledge of how to get better with the self-help, but sometimes you need, and there's a difference between a coach and a therapist and a psychologist, right? So normally a therapist or a psychologist will go more into the, history and past, and a coach is more like a basketball coach. It's like, we need to win the game now. We need to, let's move forward, right? So we want to enable people that need that extra push to say, hey, you might know what to do, but you're not doing it, right? So maybe you need to invest on getting motivated to get to that goal, right?
Yeah.
And you talked about nature, right? So I was reading actually last week some studies on nature. I've been myself going more on nature walks, and loving looking at the sunset and sunrise or the moon, and just taking more time to be with nature. It affects, as we know, we talked a lot about attention. So versus being on the screen, nature gives you more attention, but also it affects your mood, your stress, your self-regulation, so emotional self-regulation. And surprisingly, nature, even though you go alone, it affects social. The people that are exposed to nature are more generous, they cooperate more, and they're also more connected with others.
Yeah.
Right? So you connect with nature, then you connect better with others, right? And we know that connection is what we're all seeking. It's one of my 7 C's principles. So connection, contentment, creativity, curiosity, compassion, and compersion. So you want connection, and nature is one way to get that. And actually, I was surprised to see increase your social connection.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely key. Yeah. So there's one more question, I think, also for me to kind of understand your ambition, your intention. A year from now on, where would you like to sort of see the platform to be? Because I'm talking in terms of users or reduction of particular type of diseases, or let's just maybe look at a metric of how many people you would want to have on the platform. Active users on the platform. Have you thought about that? Can you sort of see yourself from a year?
Of course. We're going to have some beta testers, some beta users at the end of the year. So in 12 months, we definitely want over 20,000 users,
20,000.
maybe 50. Yeah.
20, 50,000.
So those are kind of, depending on some of the grants that we're asking for, some of the sales objective, it could be more. But that's kind of the 20,000 is the minimum that we want in 12 months.
Yeah,
and that's
why are you now approximately, just for my understanding, a couple of hundred or?
So no, right now we haven't. So we have a list of about 250 that want to be beta testers, because we have the platform now to connect to coaches. We do not have the comprehensive platform that includes tech, and we do have AI components that are coming in. We're actually going to be presenting in the Canadian Psychological Association conference in Vancouver in November, and the Society for Neuroscience in San Diego also in late November. Our AI and biomarkers of psychology research. So, we have the research, then we're doing the development of R&D. So the full platform, we have 0 subscribers today. Right now, we have some subscribers for the resets and for our platform in general that has, features of connectivity with telecoaching, telehealth. And we're also having partnerships with another Canadian company to include EMRs and EHRs, so that doctors can give us access to their patient with their consent, so that people don't have to wait 2 weeks, 2 months, or 12 months to get help that they need today, right? Yeah. So with telehealth, we can help anyone in the world today. With you just look at our we're creating our own calendar feature where you can book one of our coaches, and we're also going to be onboarding hopefully 30 to 40 other coaches and therapists and psychiatrists in the next few months.
Wonderful. No, that sounds very, very exciting. Very, very exciting, and I definitely want to be sort of staying tuned on that sort of progress and the kind of the because it's exciting. The journey that you're on is very exciting, and I can sense you're wholeheartedly involved, passionately involved in the kind of the course, which I think is probably also the reason why you will be successful in this quest. Now, I think we've come to an end now. For now, I think I've already mentioned I'd love to sort of jump on another call with you, make sure everything is working. For starters, we're probably going to touch upon certain things as well, just to kind of set the scene. And I would love to sort of then dive into some of the show me around stuff, and it could be sort of design wise. It could maybe not something that's already live, but pre-beta stage, shall we say, to talk me through the kind of the thinking, and that sort of sparks off the kind of the initial kind of interest from the market, right? That's how I like to look at it, to potentially amplify what's going to take place. Now, I don't have a lot of users at the moment, but it is going to change because I'm working on a team that actually going to look at amplifying that and doing what they're good at. I'm not good at that side. I'm good at other things, but I'm not good at the social media amplification. That's not something I'm good at. So we're hyper focused. Although it does touch upon everybody out there in the world, right? It's mass market what you do, and arguably it's also mass market what I do. And I think eventually, guys like yourself and me, I like to see myself in the same sort of world. We're trying to create impact, positive impact in society, yes. Right? That's the number one for both you and I. So thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for the conversation and sort of jumping in on this early hour for you.
I was just gonna say I had to wake up early and I have a long day ahead, but conversation like this is why we keep doing this, right? So it energized me. It was like a cold shower, but in a good way, right?
Oh, that's a nice analogy. Good day, and rest of your day.
And in any case, I would love to speak to you again. It was lovely. Have a great rest of the day as well.
Thank you very much.
Talk soon.
Bye, Christian.